we have studied 89 type of consciousness, right? And how does consciousness operate? It's very important subject, right? And consciousness operates in two ways. One is called cognitive process. We call Viti, Viti Chitta. Another one is called process free, Viti Mutta, free from cognitive process. And this type of consciousness including Bhavanga, rebirth consciousness, death consciousness. And this is chapter 5, not under chapter 4. Okay, so what is cognitive process? Viti. So when consciousness arises cognizing an object at one of the 5 sense doors. 5 sense doors mean including eye doors, eye door, ear door, nose door, body doors, and tongue door. It's called 5 sense doors. Okay, it does not occur at random, but rather in a series of discrete consciousness moments, leading from one consciousness to the next in a specific and uniform order. This order is in accordance with a fixed law of consciousness called Citta Niyama. So by this wording, definitely is not clear to you. Therefore, I got to give you an example here. So when we say when let's say eye door cognitive process, visible object impinge eye sensitivity together with Bhavanga. P number 1 is called Bhavanga. Then the cognitive process will occur in a series containing of 17 separate moments of consciousness. This one, each circle represents a consciousness moment. We call Citta Khanna. So all 17 moments of consciousness. This 17 moment of consciousness form an eye door cognitive process. Okay, and this one by one, one consciousness moment arise, pass away, arise, pass away, arise, pass away for 16 times. 16 times. This is called the fixed law of consciousness. For ear door, nose door, tongue door is the same. Each sense door consists of this 16 consciousness moments that arise one after another. This is called cognitive process. Okay. I will explain this again when I reach certain as I go on. Now, roughly, you get the idea what is cognitive process. Okay. In order to know the cognitive process, there are 6. There are 6 types of cognitive processes. Okay. The first to 5 is called 5 sense door cognitive process. It's eye cognitive process, ear door cognitive process, nose door cognitive process, tongue door cognitive process, and body door cognitive process. So are 5. Plus the last one, mind door cognitive process. Mind door cognitive process is different from the sense door cognitive process. Okay, I will show you the difference as I go on. At this moment, you know there are 6 types of cognitive processes enough. Okay. Then, in order to understand cognitive process, you also must understand what are the objects. Because Without object impinge the sensitivity, no cognitive process will occur. Okay, and which type of cognitive process arise, whether it's eye cognitive process or body cognitive process or mind or cognitive process, depend on the objects. Therefore, it's important to know the object first before we go to cognitive process. Okay, there are 6 types of objects. Visible object, color or color, sound, smell, taste, tangible, mind object. So please remember these 6. These 6 are very common to us because we see things all the time. We hear sound all the time. Right? We smell when there's smell. We taste when there's food on the tongue, right? And we touch most of the time. And we think all the time. So these are very common things in our life. Another one, we need to know cognitive process better is to understand what are the bases first. So there are 6 bases. Number 1 is called eye base. Eye base, or we call eye sensitivity. So eye base is the sensitivity towards eye base is sensitive towards the visible object. Okay, eye base inside the eyes. We got retina inside the eyes there. Ear base is sensitive towards the sound inside the ear. Okay, nose base sensitive towards the smell inside the nose. Tongue base sensitive towards the taste inside on top of the tongue. Body base sensitive towards the tangible, and body base spread all over the body, apart, the tip of the how to call hair. So 6, the heart base. Heart base is something very new to you. Okay, heart base is inside the heart, the blood. In the heart, there are many blood circulating. Inside the blood, there is heart base. Heart base, all the consciousness exclude sense door consciousness. For example, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose, tongue, body consciousness. Exclude these 5. We have 89 types of consciousness, right? So the remaining consciousness will arise depend on heart base. This is the new knowledge that you learn today. Okay, so there are 6 bases. Okay, another 6 things we need to know is 6 types of consciousness. Ear consciousness, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. Okay, so we have already learned 6 objects, 6 bases, and 6 consciousness. What are the relations among these 3? Okay, let me explain to you. So when the visible object or eye, when the visible object or color strike your eye sensitivity, then eye consciousness will arise, sees the color, sees the visible object. So in order to see very clearly what is this color, what is the name, what is the form of this color or this visible object, then we need cognitive process. We need eye-door cognitive process followed by mind-door cognitive process in order to know clearly what you see. Okay? Similarly, ear is ear-based and sound. Okay? So when a sound impinge your ear base, Then ear consciousness will arise, hear the sound. So in order to know the sound clearly, what does the sound mean? Then we need ear door cognitive process followed by mind door cognitive process in order to hear the sound clearly, what the sound means. Okay? Similarly, nose door, tongue door, body door, mind door. I assume all of you are very intelligent people, otherwise you wouldn't sign up for Abhidhamma. So if I give two examples, you should understand the rest are the same. The sixth one, mind door. Mind door, for example, you can think, your mind is restless thinking of something without involve eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. That is possible. Only mind door cognitive process. Okay, I will explain this as I go on. Okay, don't worry that. So now you see the relation among the object and the basis, or the object impinges the 6 bases, then trigger 6 types of consciousness. And only then cognitive process will arise in order to see clearly, in order to hear clearly, in order to know clearly, and so on. Okay, so we now come to the 5 sense door cognitive process. So if you have the book, I want you to turn to page 25. So there are 5 door cognitive process: eye door cognitive process, ear door cognitive process, nose door cognitive process, tongue door cognitive process, body door cognitive process. Okay, each of the 5 door, this we call 5 door. Each of the 5 door cognitive process takes its respective object of visible form. Eye door cognitive process takes visible form or color. Eye door cognitive process takes sound. Nose door cognitive process takes smell. And tongue door cognitive process takes taste. And the body door cognitive process takes tangible. Okay? So I want to introduce a little bit first. What is eye door cognitive process? Suppose a color impinge, impinge means strikes. A color of visible form impinge eye sensitivity together with bhavanga. I will explain bhavanga later. Bhavanga. So when a visible form impinges the eye sensitivity together with bhavanga, so one bhavanga pass away. Number P. Let me use the laser pointer. Okay, here. P means past bhavanga. So past bhavanga pass away. We call past bhavanga. Followed by vibrating bhavanga. Followed by vibrating bhavanga because there's new object coming in. So bhavanga vibrate. Then a resting bhavanga. A resting bhavanga. You don't have to remember the name first. It's all in my book. Now I only give you a simple introduction first. As I go on, I will deepen this 17 mind moment. So first round, if you don't understand, don't worry. I will go deeper and deeper again. So this 3 are called bhavanga chitta. Then F is 5 door averting consciousness. So because it's a visible form, so the mind turn to the visible, the mind turn to the object. The mind turning, so 5 door averting consciousness means turning towards the object. What is that? Okay, so if the object is a visible form, then ear consciousness arises. E represent eye consciousness. So E means eye consciousness arises, seeing that visible form. Okay, therefore trigger the eyeball cognitive process. If it's the sound, then ear door cognitive process. So what type of cognitive process will arise depend on the object. Therefore, I introduce the 6 types of object to you first. So ear seeing the visible form, followed by receiving consciousness, receive the object, followed by investigating consciousness, investigate the object, followed by determining consciousness. Okay, here determining consciousness, you may ask, in 89 types of consciousness, there is no consciousness called determining consciousness, right? Then where is this consciousness comes from? Here we must understand one thing. We know there's mind door under the rootless consciousness. There are 3 functional consciousness. I hope you can remember. If you cannot remember, you cannot catch up. You may know what I'm talking about. You may not know what I'm talking about. So under rootless consciousness, there are 3 types of functional consciousness. One is called 5-door averting consciousness. Another one is called mind door averting consciousness. And the third one is called smiling producing consciousness by Arahant. Okay. So mind door averting consciousness has 2 functions. The function number 1 is mind door averting. Is number 1 function. The second function of mind door averting is determining. It also plays the function of determine the object. So in this case, here determining consciousness is the same as mind door averting consciousness. It's the same types of consciousness, but in the eye door cognitive process, it doesn't call mind door averting consciousness. It calls only determining consciousness. I hope you can understand. This is a bit complicated. So from here, you can know each consciousness may play different function, may play 3 or 4 function. The function they play got different name. That may confuse you. I give you an example. Me, I am Sayalay Susīlā. Okay, so in front of you, I am Sayalay Susīlā. I'm the teacher of you. But when I go back to my hometown, I am the daughter of my mother. Okay, and I am the sister of my brother. So it's the same person of Sayalay Susīlā, but I play different roles. In front of you, I play the role of teacher. In front of my mother, I play the role of daughter. In front of my younger brother, I play the roles of elder sister. But I remain the same person. Different name, different roles. Similarly, consciousness, 80 type of consciousness, certain consciousness play different roles. So determining consciousness is same as mind door averting consciousness. In this case, mind door averting consciousness play the roles of determining only. Okay, followed by 7 jhana. Okay, 7 jhana here, wholesome and unwholesome consciousness happen in this 7 jhana. 7 jhana means run very swiftly towards the object for 7 times. Okay, then followed by 2 registering consciousness. Then 17 mind moment finished. Now the visible form. Visible form is rupa, material. Okay, materiality. Materiality lasts for the lifespan. The duration or lifespan of materiality lasts for 17 consciousness moment. So now, why this idle cognitive process lasts for 17 consciousness moment? Because the visible form, the object, which is materiality, the lifespan of it lasts only for 17 consciousness moment. Now the visible form vanished because lifespan already gone, already finished. So the visible form vanished, vanishes. Therefore, the idle cognitive process must come to stop. Stop. Finished. Finish idle cognitive process. And the mind fall into bhavanga here, bhavanga. Okay? So this is the first introduction. You may not get it, but I will repeat again and again as time goes on. Okay, next one. This is the question many people cannot explain and many people cannot understand. What is bhavanga? Even in my first lecture, people already asked me, what is bhavanga? I just want to let you know certain answer I don't want to answer first because I know I will explain later. So when I now explain to you, you get a better understanding, not only you, the rest of students also get to get the same understanding. Therefore, be patient if I don't understand certain of your question, okay? So what's bhavanga? Bhavanga is a combination of two words, bhava anga. Bhava means assistant, anga means factor. So bhavanga means factor of assistant. Still not clear to you, right? Okay, so we go to next slide. Okay, if you have the book, please turn to page 25. So bhavanga means bhava anga. Bhava is existent, anga is factor. So bhavanga means factor of existence, which is the indispensable condition for existence. The function of bhavanga consciousness is to preserve the continuity of the mental stream through the duration of any single existence from conception to death. Okay, please see this chart on the screen. So here you see from birth up to the death. Right? In between is called stream of mental stream or stream of consciousness or called mental stream from rebirth to death. So the graph here up and down here means cognitive process. Because why is up and down? Because cognitive process is very active. Why is so active? You can turn to page 26. It's very clearly written there. Page 26 in my book. So this up and down graph shows cognitive process. And they are very active because of the force of greed, hatred, and delusion. Sometimes when you get very angry, so your mind become very forceful. Therefore, all this up and down of the emotion. Then, when you get angry, let's say you get angry, then the mind door everything associated with anger arise here. Then after your anger subside, when your anger subside and no other thought, no other cognitive process, no hearing, no seeing, no thinking, no other thing. Then what arises after the mind door averting consciousness? After mind door cognitive process subside, before another cognitive process arise in between. You see, in between these two cognitive process, there is a gap, right? So in the stream, mental stream cannot stop one. If you understand Abhidhamma well, the consciousness arise one after another. There's no a time. There's no consciousness. Therefore, in between two cognitive process, and the mental stream cannot stop. So what maintain the continuity of consciousness in this gap? What maintain the continuity of consciousness? Is bhavanga, factor of existence, bhavanga. As I say, the function of bhavanga is to preserve the continuity of the mental stream through the duration of any single existence from conception to death. So after bhavanga arise and pass away, to maintain the continuity of stream, of mental stream, and after that another cognitive arise, okay, up and down, with emotion, with unwholesome or with wholesome. Then after that, this cognitive process stop again. Then before another cognitive process arise, in between there's a gap. Then bhavanga or factor of existence fill up the gap in order to preserve the continuity of mental stream. Okay? So from below, see the below here. So all this dot is called bhavanga. So bhavanga arise, here is cognitive process, dot is bhavanga. So in between two cognitive process, bhavanga arise to preserve or to maintain the continuity of consciousness of existence between birth and death. So here you can see, here is very quiet now, dot is very quiet, unlike cognitive process, is very active. After active, the mind fall into quiet. Okay. Therefore, bhavanga is passive phase of consciousness. Cognitive process is active phase of consciousness. Bhavanga consciousness is resultant consciousness. Resultant consciousness that cannot be changed already. Therefore, it's very passive. But active, but cognitive process is associated with wholesome and unwholesome consciousness that can be changed. If you change your mind, let's say when you are angry, you change the anger, you use metta to overcome your anger, then that consciousness, unwholesome consciousness, change to wholesome one. That can be changed. But resultant consciousness cannot be changed. Therefore, it's very passive phase of consciousness. Okay, I hope you can understand what is the bhavanga, the meaning of bhavanga now. Okay, bhavanga arise in between two cognitive process in order to preserve or maintain the continuity of mental stream, because mental stream cannot be stopped unless you become arahant, enter into parinibbana, then the consciousness stop completely. And another occasion is when you enter into nirodha samapatti, attainment of cessation. That attainment of cessation can be entered by arahant and anagami. Both of them, sometimes they get disgusted with the formation, because what they see is only impermanent, suffering and non-self. They get very disgusted, so they temporarily enter into attainment of cessation, where the mental stream is temporarily cut off. Only under these two situations, then the mind stream, the mental stream can be temporarily or permanently cut off. The rest of the time, it must flow on continuously. Okay, now suppose you see the You see the lotus flowers here, right? So what type of cognitive process will arise in you? When you see this lotus flower, we say we have 6 types of cognitive process. So the moment this lotus flower, this color, impinge your eye sensitivity, what type of cognitive process will arise?
There's one from Tan Li Xiang. He says eyes door cognitive process.
That's right. Good. I want to make sure you understand so I can proceed. Right? Yeah. Okay, good, good. So it's eye door cognitive process. So we want to know one by one now in detail. Just now it's only roughly. Now I want to explain in detail. Okay. Okay, so it's eye door cognitive process. If you have my book, you can turn to page 29. Page 29. Okay, the first one, when a visible object, because lotus is visible object. So when a visible object impinge eye sensitivity or eye base, we have learned this already. So if a visible form impinge eye base together with bhavanga, then the first called past bhavanga, atita bhavanga, pass away. This P pass away, therefore is called past bhavanga. Okay, follow when it gone already, the second consciousness will arise called vibrating bhavanga, bhavanga charana, because of impingement on the eye sensitivity by a visible object. The bhavanga vibrates. It's all in my book, page 29. So bhavanga vibrate. Why bhavanga vibrate? Because bhavanga take different object. Bhavanga is resultant consciousness. Take different object. But now a new object called visible form, present object, new object, visible form. What color we don't know yet. Visible form impinge eye sensitivity and the bhavanga. And therefore bhavanga vibrate because it takes different object. Now new object come in, the mind start to vibrate. We call vibrating bhavanga. Then the third one is called arresting bhavanga. The bhavanga stream is cut off, allowing the active cognitive process to begin in the next mind moment. So the 3 bhavanga here, past bhavanga, vibrating bhavanga, and arresting bhavanga, these 3 are not active phase of cognitive process. They are process free. Process free. So these 3 bhavanga must cut off in order or to allow the active cognitive process to begin in the next consciousness. Therefore, the next consciousness here is called 5-door averting consciousness. So this 3 bhavanga is called process free. It's not cognitive process. It's out of cognitive process. Okay, begin with a 5-door averting consciousness. Is the active phase of consciousness. It's cognitive process. So 5-door averting consciousness, avert or turning to the visible object, as if asking, what is that? For example, you are in the computer and you are looking at the computer screen. You heard a sound. Then your mind turn to the sound and ask, what is that? I'm trying to tell you the meaning, okay? So 5-door averting consciousness, turning towards the object. It doesn't know the object at all, just turning towards the object, okay? So if the object is visible form, then eye consciousness, E is eye consciousness. Eye consciousness arise. Okay, 5-door averting consciousness is functional consciousness. No karma involved. Then eye consciousness arises, sees the visible object. Its function is seeing. Okay, so sees the visible object. Eye consciousness is resultant consciousness. So also no karma involved. followed by receiving consciousness. Receiving consciousness is resultant consciousness. Receive the object, receive the visible object. Okay, let me repeat a little bit. The eye consciousness sees the visible form, but eye consciousness does not know what color, what's that visible form. This, it seems like, a very conflict with what we experience in daily life, right? So when our eye sees something, we immediately know. For example, our eye sees a house. We immediately know, oh, this is a house. When your eye sees me, immediately you know, oh, she is Sayalay Susīlā, right? So it seems that when the eye sees, we immediately know who is she, what is that. But here, we say that eye consciousness only sees object. It doesn't understand what is the object, what is the color, what is the form yet. Why is so? Why is it so? Because we must understand, a trillion of consciousness moments arise and pass away in a snap of the fingers. Therefore, one may mistakenly think that one understands a visible form as soon as one sees it. Recognize the meaning of sound as soon as one hears it. Knows the good odor, a good smell as soon as one smells it, and etc. So, because of the fast speed of consciousness, the moment we see the object, we know it. In fact, that trillion of consciousness already arise and pass away, that we do not know that, right? We are unable to know as well because our mind is so unconcentrated. It's not trained in concentration yet. So after eye consciousness seeing the object and does not know what is the object yet, what is the name of the object, what is the shape of the object yet? Then receiving consciousness receive the object, and followed by investigating consciousness, investigate the object. So receiving and investigating consciousness are the resultant consciousness. Followed by determining consciousness, determine the object. As I say, in the 89 type of consciousness, we cannot find a consciousness called determining consciousness, because determining consciousness is same as mind door averting consciousness, which is functional consciousness. So in the mind door cognitive process, mind door averting consciousness is called mind door averting consciousness. But in the five sense door cognitive process, that mind door averting consciousness become determining consciousness. I explained previously already. Now I explain you again. Then after you determine that object already, oh, it is visible. It is visible object. You determine clearly already. Then javana, 7 javana. What is the meaning of javana? Javana literally means running swiftly, running very fast. And it is so named javana, impulsion, javana, because it runs 7 times swiftly over a single object. You see, other consciousness only run 1 time. Eye consciousness, eye consciousness, receiving consciousness, investigating consciousness, determining consciousness only runs 1 time, but javana runs 7 times. Okay. So it runs 7 times swiftly over a single object, over the visible object, in the act of apprehending it, in the act of wanting to know it, apprehending, wanting to know it clearly. Okay. Okay, there's one important point here. The 7 successive consciousness within the same jhana here must be of the same type. Let's say, here up to determining consciousness, you only know it's a visible object, but still not clear yet. However, you still you know it's a visible object. So you have some liking. You have liking. You like that visible object. So when there's a liking towards the visible object, then consciousness rooted in greed, accompanied by joy, associated or dissociated with wrong view, prompted, will arise at the stage of jhana, one after another for 7 times. Okay, so the 7 jhana, let's say you like this visible object, then one consciousness accompanied by joy, associated with wrong view, prompted, will arise 7 times, one after another in the jhana stage. So at the jhana stage, all wholesome and unwholesome consciousness will arise, will involve in the jhana stage. The rest is now the rest before the jhana. Determining is functional consciousness. Investigating is resultant consciousness. Receiving is resultant consciousness. Eye sensitivity, eye consciousness is resultant consciousness. So all these are non-karma involved. But in the jhana stage are all karma involved, whether it's wholesome or unwholesome. Then if you dislike this visible form, then one consciousness rooted in anger, one consciousness accompanied by displeasure, associated with aversion, prompted, arise in you for 7 times. Okay, one after another. Therefore, we say all this jhana must be the same type of consciousness. One type of consciousness, whether it's rooted in anger, rooted in greed, or rooted in delusion, will arise 7 times. Same consciousness arise 7 times, one after another. Then the karma is performed here. Karma is performed here in jhana stage and leave karmic potency already. Okay. Then after that, registering consciousness. Registering consciousness, what is the meaning of registering, or called tadaramana? Tadaramana usually arise 2 times. No, never 1 time one. If registering consciousness must arise twice, or not arise at all, can. So the meaning means having tadaramana, Pali words, means having that object that has apprehended by jhana. So tadarama means having the object that has been apprehended by jhana. So is it not so much meaningful, registering consciousness? But why must registering consciousness arise? Because the object, the impact of the object towards the mind is very great. Just like you driving a car, you drive very fast. No, so before you stop completely, you have to slow down your car first. Similarly, registering consciousness arise here is to slow down a little bit the force of jhana. Slow it down first, then the cognitive process can come to the end. So the car can stop completely. Same thing. Or you run very fast, before you come to stop, you got to slow down your pace first. So slowing down is the registering consciousness, to slow down the pace, the force of jhana, so that cognitive process idle cognitive process can come to stop, and the mind fall into bhavanga. Okay, so here, registering consciousness, you may ask, I think somebody have already asked this question. In the 89 type of consciousness, we do not find any consciousness called registering consciousness, right? So what is this? Where it comes from? It's out of 89 type of consciousness. So registering consciousness is the same as investigating consciousness. Investigating consciousness can play two functions. One is investigating itself, investigating. Another one is registering, right? As I said before, one consciousness sometimes can play different role. So investigating consciousness can play the role, the function of investigating as well as registering. So in the idle cognitive process, after receiving consciousness, investigating consciousness, investigate the object, arise and pass away, gone already, right? Then consciousness keep on running up to registering consciousness. And this registering consciousness is also the investigating consciousness that already gone, already passed away. But at this time, it play different function, the function of registering. Okay, then the mind fall into bhavanga. I think it's very complicated, nah? For me to explain is also very tired. Okay. So I want to tell you, from the past bhavanga up to determining consciousness are not important. You don't have to remember what is receiving, investigating, determining, not important because there's no karma involved. Okay? And we living in this sense sphere plane of existence, what we want to do is to avoid evil, cultivate the good. Avoid evil, do good. This is what we want to do as a human being. So if I were you, I don't care what is this receiving, investigating, determining. Whether I remember or not remember, not important at all. Registering also not important at all. What is important is jhana here. We want to make sure wholesome consciousness arise at this stage, not unwholesome. Okay? This is what is most important. You have to know. The rest, you can forget it. Otherwise, it becomes too complicated for you. So for the 5-door cognitive process, it's a visible object. Let me repeat, because when I reach this chapter, I need a lot of repetition so that it can, you get better and better understanding. So here, process free. So each cognitive process lasts for 17 moments. Okay. So first, process free, past bhavanga, vibrating bhavanga, arresting bhavanga. This is called process free. And from the 5-door up to registration, these are called the actual idle cognitive process. So as I say, 5-door up to determining are not so important because they don't have karma. They do not involve any karma. But the jhana is very important. Here, wholesome and unwholesome karma are performed at the jhana stage. Okay. Then registration also not important. But here, one important question is, one important thing you need to know. Why only 17 moments? Why not 18? Why not 19? Why not 20, right? It's because the lifespan of material, which is a visible object, is called materiality, rupa. We have 4 ultimate truths, right? Consciousness, mental factor, and materiality. So this visible object is called materiality. Its lifespan lasts for 17 mind moments. Therefore, after 17 mind moments, this visible object no more impinge eye sensitivity. So no more seeing. No more seeing. Therefore, this cognitive process come to the end. Now, this is one important point you must know. Come to the end already. Okay. Okay, but at this stage, the object still not clear yet. Still very unclear. Although we have performed the wholesome and unwholesome karma at the jhana stage, and this karma is very, very weak. Why is very weak? Because the object still not clear yet. But there's a slight karma, very slight karma here. So in order to see the object more clearly, we need many mind door cognitive process. So now I'm going to explain to you mind door cognitive process. Okay. So mind door cognitive process is a little bit different from the sense door. Here you see vibrating after 5 door, the mind fall into bhavanga, then reach the mind door cognitive process. So here is mind door. First is bhavanga. Bhavanga, B is bhavanga. Because bhavanga must arise in between 2 cognitive process. Okay, so bhavanga. This here before bhavanga, here is also stream of bhavanga here. How many we do not know? Then vibrating bhavanga, resting bhavanga. All cognitive process must emerge from the bhavanga. Please remember this point. Okay. So then here M is mind door averting consciousness. Mind door averting consciousness is functional consciousness. Functional consciousness. So in mind door cognitive process, M here is called mind door averting consciousness. But in the 5 door cognitive process, let's say I door cognitive process we just study, here mind door averting consciousness becomes determining consciousness. Becomes determining consciousness. They are the same consciousness but different name. Different name and happen at different times. Even you don't understand this point, don't not important. But since the yogi asked again, therefore I need to explain. Otherwise, I'm not going to explain one because not important at all. Okay, important is jhana. Okay. Therefore, sometimes the question you ask also very important for me, whether to choose answer or not. Because certain questions are very important for everybody to know. I'm very happy to answer. But certain question, even you know already, it doesn't helps you to cultivate more wholesome in your life. Therefore, I also don't have very strong motivation to answer. Therefore, I urge you to ask question which is more practical and more beneficial for your life, not only for the sake of knowledge. Okay. So after mind door averting consciousness avert to the object, then 7 jhana, same 7 jhana, then registration, 2 registration. So you can see mind door cognitive process is different from the sense door cognitive process. Okay. So this is the introduction only, introduction to the mind door cognitive process. Okay, now we come to first mind door cognitive process. As I said previously, there's eye door cognitive process, seeing the lotus flower as a visible object. He doesn't know it's a lotus flower yet. In order to know what is the visible object that the eye consciousness sees. So after eye door cognitive process, followed by many bhavanga, then followed by first mind door cognitive process. Okay, so what object he sees? As I said before, that visible object, which is materiality, has ceased already. 17 mind moment, lifespan gone already. So that visible object already finished, gone. No more impinge the eye base, right? But now come to the mind door. So mind door had to seize past object. The first mind door cognitive process through the memory, right? What the eye sees, lift the memory into the mind. So the mind door cognitive process now knows what? Knows past object, because that materiality already gone, that visible object already gone. Now the mind just reflect, memorize what the eye has seen. So the first is called first mind door cognitive process. Know the past object here. Where I can my pointer. Okay. So the first mind door cognitive process, okay, knows the past object. Then still don't know what is that. What is the past? What is the object the eye has seen? So go to the second mind door cognitive process. So emerge from the bhavanga, emerge from the passive consciousness of bhavanga again. Then bhavanga vibrate, then arrested. Then mind door averting consciousness, turning to the past object. Now since it's the second mind door, it's then for jhavana, seven jhavana start to think of not think of how to call jhavana start to know the color of the object. For example, this lotus flower is pink color, so he start to know the color of the object. Still don't know it's the lotus yet. Okay, then the mind fall into registration consciousness, then fall into bhavanga again. Then the third mind door cognitive process. After knowing the what? After now come to the shape or form of the object. The shape or form that the eyes just now see now become clear to the mind. The shape of the lotus. Then follow my next fourth mind door cognitive process. Then the name of the object, visible object. Oh, lotus. The shape come out, or the name come out, or the shape come out. Which one first? It doesn't matter, right? This, according to commentary, they also argue with each other whether the name first or the form first. To me, not important. Please remember, important is jhavana. All this I'm telling you, the step, how the things gradually become clear. Not as we know, the moment we see, everything become clear. It's not true. What we see is illusion. It must go through so many, idol cognitive, one idol cognitive, then mind door cognitive process, so many, again and again. Then only come to the, all the shape and form, name come out. Now he know it is lotus. Okay. Now, since the object become clear to you, you know it's lotus. So what is the reaction? What's the reaction towards the lotus? You may like it or you may dislike it. Okay? So let's say you like it. If you like the lotus flower, then you attach to the lotus flower. So one consciousness, unwholesome consciousness. Under unwholesome consciousness, there are 8 rooted in greed. So one consciousness accompanied by joy, associated with wrong view, prompted, will arise at the jhavana stage here. At the jhavana stage here, 7 times, one after another. One after another, one arise, gone, arise, gone, arise, gone for 7 times. And then wholesome karma are performed and strengthened at the jhavana stage here at the mind door. In the eye door cognitive process, the karma is very weak because the visible object not clear to you. So your liking is not strong yet. But when the object becomes so strong, so clear to your mind, and then you start have reaction towards the object and you like it, then the consciousness rooted in anger will arise 7 times at the jhavana, and the karma is strengthened here. Okay, but if you don't like the lotus flower, since young you hate the lotus flower, so then the consciousness rooted in anger, one consciousness accompanied by displeasure, associated with aversion will arise 7 times in the jhana stage. Then you perform the karma rooted in anger. Okay? So here, I want to explain one very important point before I stop the class. Otherwise, when I wait for next lesson, you may forget already. How can we react? What determine for wholesome jhana or unwholesome jhana to arise? This is a very important question. This is very useful for your daily life, right? Therefore, I very much like to share something is useful for you, not only for the sake of knowledge. Okay, so to determine or to make sure the wholesome consciousness to arise at the jhana stage or unwholesome consciousness to arise at jhana stage, here, mind or averting consciousness, which is determining consciousness, is also important. No? If you can pay wise attention towards the object, then wholesome consciousness will arise. If you pay unwise attention towards the object, then unwholesome consciousness will arise. However, what really determine the wholesome and unwholesome jhana to arise at jhana stage? First, it depends on the object itself. The visible object itself. Let's say, now object is agreeable to you, very agreeable to you. For example, lotus flower, very agreeable to you. Then wholesome consciousness rooted, maybe in anger, in greed, or maybe wholesome. You want to take the lotus to offer to the Buddha. That also possible. That wholesome can arise. So sometimes it depends on the object itself. First, let's say object is agreeable. Let's say a beautiful woman. A beautiful woman, visible object, is very agreeable to a man, a lustful man. So the moment the eyes, the moment come to jhana stage here, and the object is visible, very agreeable to a lustful man, then the consciousness rooted in greed will arise at jhana stage. If the object is disagreeable, let's say you hear the abusive sound, somebody abuse you, criticize you, so the object is very disagreeable, then unwholesome consciousness rooted in anger, accompanied by displeasure, prompted or unprompted, will arise at jhana stage, one after another for 7 times. But if the object is, let's say, whether wholesome or unwholesome consciousness will arise at jhana stage depend on the object, depend on the agreeable or disagreeable of the object. This is one of the factor. The second factor is your past tendency. Your past tendency, or your habitual tendency. Let's say you are a lustful person. So the moment you see a beautiful woman, a visible object, then the consciousness rooted in greed will arise many times. But if your tendency, your past tendency, your habitual tendency cultivated before is not lustful person, or you are the person who always contemplate or meditate on the asubha, impurity of body, like 32 parts or skeleton meditation. So if you are the one who always meditate on the impurity of the body, so when you have this tendency, habitual tendency to see body as impure, then when you see a beautiful woman arise in, when you see the beautiful woman, the unwholesome consciousness rooted in greed will not arise in you. Instead, wholesome consciousness, accompanied by equanimity associated with knowledge will arise in you, will arise in you 7 times in the jhana stage. Then the wholesome karma are performed and strengthened here. So this depends on your past tendency, your habitual tendency. This is one of the factors that decide whether it's wholesome jhana to arise or unwholesome. Okay, and next factor is your belief. Some believe in Christian, some believe in Islam, some believe in Buddhist, some in Buddha. Sometimes it depends on your belief. For example, if you are a devoted Buddhist, so when you go out and you see a monk coming for Pintabata, begging food. So because you are the devoted Buddhist, when you see a monk coming to you, then you will have consciousness accompanied by joy associated with knowledge, prompted arise at jhana stage for 7 times, and good karma is performed. However, if you are not a Buddhist and you are non-thinker and you have some your own opinion towards monk. So just like happened in Buddha's time, there was in Dhammapada, there was a hunter going out to hunt the animal with 2 dogs. So on his way to the forest, he saw a monk coming for Pintabata, coming for begging food. So because he's a non-believer of Buddha's teaching, and he has his own opinion towards monk. Then he said that, seeing this bald head, no hair like me. So seeing this bald-headed monk is misfortunate. It's something bad. Seeing the bald-headed monk is something very bad. So he aroused the anger towards seeing that monk. So the mind, and then the unwholesome jhana rooted in anger, accompanied by displeasure, arise in a jhana state for many, many times. For 7 times, then not only one mind-door cognitive process, followed by many, many mind-door cognitive process. So long your anger persists, then the jhana will continue to arise again and again, right? And this hunter, then when he went to the forest, and the day he didn't get any things, he did not get any animal, he did not get any things back. So on the way back, he saw the same monk finish his Pintabata and meet the same monk again. So this time he get even more angry. He thought, why I did not get anything today? Because I meet with this monk. This monk gave me misfortune. Then he let go his dog to chase after the monk. And the monk was so frightened, climbed up to the tree. The monk climbed up to the tree, and the dog and the hunter used his spike, below the tree, try to poke him, to pierce him, to poke him. And in the struggling, the monk's rope fell down and covered the whole body, cover the body of the hunter. And the dog misperceived his master with the yellow ropes, assume it's the monk. So the 2 dogs attack his master and bite him until he was seriously injured, even died. You see? So from this, you see, from the unwholesome consciousness rooted in hatred that happen in jhana, again and again, up to the end, produce its result of dying. He died because of his anger, right? So this consciousness, unwholesome consciousness, also can produce result at the present life as well. Okay, so this is another factor. Your belief, the way you see things, your belief also can affect whether it's wholesome consciousness to arise or unwholesome consciousness to arise. Okay. Then the next one, Another one is called mindfulness. So mindfulness will determine whether wholesome consciousness to arise or unwholesome consciousness to arise. Okay, I give you an example. Many years ago, when I was in London airport, at the time London was attacked by heat wave, and I never experienced heat wave in Malaysia. Although Malaysia is very hot, but still we don't experience the heat wave. So when all the passengers go inside the airplane on board, everybody is crazy with the heat and fanning themselves. And I was also one of them, fanning myself. And the mind is very annoying. So at the time, I have no mindfulness towards how to contemplate my heat. It's not saying no mindfulness. I lost my mindfulness. So I do not contemplate my heat as fire element. And I get very annoyed with the heat because the heat is so unbearable. I never experienced this heat wave in my life. So at that time, unwholesome consciousness rooted in anger, aversion arise in me. But after few minutes, 1 minute or 5 minutes, I start to realize, I start to feel shameful of myself. I'm a practitioner. Why I behave like them, same as them? Then where's the strength of my meditation, right? Then I call upon my mindfulness. Just be mindful of the fire as fire element, heat as fire element. So I just be mindful of the fire element in my body. Immediately, all the aversion, annoyance at the mind disappeared, and the mind become equanimous. So at that time, one consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with knowledge arise in me. So I change my mind from unwholesome consciousness to wholesome consciousness by way of mindfulness. However, if I can be aware immediately before the annoyance arises, then even better, right? I don't have to go through some unwholesome consciousness accompanied by aversion. So by way of mindfulness, you can change your mind, or you can maintain wholesome consciousness throughout the journey. Okay, so mindfulness is also one way to determine whether unwholesome and wholesome consciousness will arise at the jhana stage. The last one I want to share is wise attention. Wise attention or yoniso manasikara. So if you can pay here mind door averting consciousness or determining consciousness in the I door cognitive processness, or mind averting consciousness in the mind door cognitive process. Here at this stage, if you can think wisely, reflect wisely, reflect impermanent wisely, then wholesome consciousness will arise. I want to give another example again. For example, last few years, I was invited to Jakarta to give a talk, to conduct a retreat, Jakarta, Indonesia. So in the midway, the organizer told me that while I'm not teaching the retreat day, the organizer told me, the monk told me that he received a call from my hometown saying that my mother passed away. So, say my mother passed away. Then at that moment, I use yoniso manasikara, okay, wise attention. Then I say, indeed, all formations are impermanent. Having a reason, they ceased. So I contemplate the impermanent. Then I don't let the sorrow is rooted in aversion. So I don't let sorrow, which is rooted in aversion, to overwhelm my mind. And then I can continue to share my teaching without being affected by my mother's death. This is called wise attention. If the moment you hear anyone hear your beloved person's death, and you fall into sorrow, and crying, and unwholesome consciousness will arise in the jhana stage for very, very long. If you sorrow for 1 week, then the consciousness rooted in aversion will arise in you for very, very long. I remember one time I was in China, one of the students asked me, tell me, said, sister, I feel so sorrowful because I miss my mother very strongly. Her mother already passed away. At the time, I asked, how long your mom had passed away? And she told me 20 years. My goodness, I feel so compassionate for her. Why should she suffer 20 years for her mother's death? I suffer maybe few seconds, few minutes. I suffer only few seconds, few minutes, and she suffered for 20 years. Simply, she does not understand. She does not apply wise attention, wise reflection. So if you apply wise attention, wise reflection, reflect wisely according to the Dhamma, then I'm sure all the wholesome jhana will look after you, will take care of you instead of unwholesome jhana.
Yeah.
So this cognitive process become very complicated already, right? As you know, but it's also very important. And don't worry if you don't understand in minute detail. It's not necessary unless you want to become an Abhidhamma teacher. Otherwise, it's not necessary to understand in minute detail. Okay, and important is to to make sure what is cognitive process, and what is bhavanga, and what is jhana, and then how to make the wholesome jhana to arise. That's more important for you. The rest, even you cannot remember, it doesn't matter. And here also I want to remind you again and again, if you can ask, of course I can answer all your questions, but frankly speaking, I'm not interested to answer those questions which I think not important. So I pick and choose. I choose an answer. I pick. So please, before you asking question, you can ask yourself first: is this question beneficial for me in cultivating good or not? If yes, please answer. Please ask. If no, you can let go of it. No, don't worry. Okay. So let me share merit. And next lesson we have more and more story. Which story help you to understand more? Okay. So let me share merit together. Etawata cha ammehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe dewa sabbe buddha sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampati siddhiya akasata cha bummata dewa nakka mahidika punya tang anumoditva cirang rakkantu sasanang cirang rakkantu desanang Cirang rakhantu mang paranti. May the merit acquired through this sharing and listening to the Abhidhamma, may you be blessed by the triple gem and grow in wisdom. Sadhu, 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 and may all of you be well and happy.